trying to exercise your creative talents. I don't have very much, so this is about as far as I go. Did you see how pretty and light and fluffy this looks now? So satisfying. I don't think I just got some in my hair. Now my husband has to clean up after me. I'm super excited to share today's recipe with you. Today we're gonna make my famous fruit pizza. It's really the recipe that I first sort of perfected. I started making it for every occasion and every event, and I still make it every excuse I can get. So we're gonna start with the sugar cookie crust. That has to chill in the refrigerator, so we're gonna do that part first before we do anything else. It calls for softened butter, so I always take my butter out of the fridge about 30 minutes before I'm gonna start. That way it softens really nicely to room temperature. And also, I always use room temperature eggs. I never like to leave my eggs out on the counter, so what I do instead is actually put it in a cup filled with warm water just for about 5 minutes while I'm prepping everything else. And then by that time, when I'm ready to use it, it's ready. Fill this up with warm water, put my egg in there. So to start, we are going to put all our dry ingredients into a medium bowl. So I always use a kitchen scale. I find that it gives me better results. That way I don't have to use as many dishes either. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh about 1.5 cups or 190 grams of flour. I'm using the gluten-free Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 baking flour. I'll try not to get it all over the counter like I usually do. Then my husband has to clean up after me. Thanks, honey. Perfect, so 190. So 1/4 teaspoon of regular salt. Another one of my tricks that I'll come up to later talking about salt, I always use salted butter. I know it's a big no-no in the baking community, but I love salted butter and I find that it gives everything just a better flavor. So we're gonna add a teaspoon of baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. A teaspoon and a half of cornstarch. It helps the dough from spreading as much and gives it a little bit of chew. Then we're gonna set those ingredients aside and move on to our wet ingredients. So I got my handy dandy KitchenAid mixer. I usually use the paddle attachment for every recipe that I make, except for like Swiss meringue buttercream. So the butter, it's probably been out for 20 or 30 minutes. It's not that warm of a day today, but you know if it's ready if you can indent. You don't want it too warm. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 1 stick or 1/2 cup of butter to the stand mixer. And we'll go ahead and whip that up probably for about 3 minutes, or medium speed. So about halfway through creaming the butter, I always just use a spatula and scrape down, especially if you only have 1 stick of butter in here. So it's a good idea to scrape down about halfway in between. Then we'll mix it again. All right, now we add the sugar. You can measure out your sugar first, but to save a dish, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the scale again. So I'm just gonna put our bowl directly on, and we're gonna add 3/4 cup or 150 grams of sugar. That was close. A little bit more. All right, 150. So we'll put this guy back on the mixer and cream these two together. You can go back, start on low speed, and then we'll increase to medium. And then I'm just gonna scrape down the bowl one more time. Keep mixing till it's light and fluffy. One of my favorite things in the entire world, I don't know why, is creaming butter and sugar together, or just creaming butter. It's so satisfying. You watch it get all light and fluffy and it turns light in color. About ready for our egg, so I'm just gonna leave it on low speed here, and we're gonna add in our now warm room temperature egg. We'll let that mix. We'll probably have to scrape it down quick. Let it get all incorporated, and then we'll add our vanilla. Did you see how pretty and light and fluffy this looks now? So satisfying. All right, now next up we're doing a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now we're gonna slowly add in our dry ingredients and just stir it on low speed until it's all incorporated. And we'll just slowly add it in, probably in about 3 increments. About incorporated, I'll just add more. You can stop to scrape down as you need. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides, make sure they're all together. So we'll give it one final stir. All right, perfect. What we're gonna do is put this in the refrigerator for a minimum of an hour. If you wanna do it in advance, you can make it the night before you're gonna use it and bake it. but for us, we'll just do it for an hour. So we'll just get all the dough. Oh, it's so pretty. And then so the top doesn't harden, what I'm going to do is cover it with plastic wrap and have the plastic wrap actually touch the surface of the dough before I put it in the fridge. Just gonna take the plastic wrap and spread it on. And then give yourself a little slack so you can just push it down in there. Otherwise it will crust and harden on the top. We don't want that. So make sure it's all covered. Ready to go into the fridge. Our dough has been chilling for an hour. Disclaimer, typically I use a pizza stone for this recipe, and it's like a perfect nice 12 by 12 circle, but of course I just dropped mine and broke it. We're gonna make do with a regular pan. What I did here is just line it with some parchment paper and sprayed it with some non-stick cooking spray. So we'll go ahead and take our chilled dough, still pretty soft but nicely workable. We're just gonna press this out with our hands until a nice 12 by 12-ish circle. All right, so once we have it in our pretty much size we want it, I'm just gonna go around and smooth the edges as much as I can. One time when I made it for Easter, I did it in the shape of like an egg. You could do it in like a Santa shape, Santa hat, or whatever holiday you're making it for. This one we're just gonna do classic, so we'll keep it in a nice circle. And then just to make sure that the dough doesn't spread, since it's gotten a little bit warm from us just touching it with our hands, you can stick this in the fridge for 30 minutes, or a quicker way is just to put it in the freezer for 15 minutes while your oven is preheating, and then you can bake it. The crust has been frozen for about 15 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and put it in the preheated oven. It'll bake at 350 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes. You just wanna see the very edges of the cookie turn super light brown. You don't want it to overcook. All right, so here's the cookie crust just out of the oven. As you can see, it has that nice golden brown just around the edge. Perfect. So we'll let this cool until it reaches room temperature. In the meantime, we'll make the frosting and then put it all together. So I've taken my cream cheese and my butter out to soften on the counter. So in the meantime, I have some fresh fruit that I washed, and I'm gonna slice. So you can use whatever type of fruit you like, whatever is in season, whatever is your favorite. Today I'm gonna use kiwis, grapes, strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. All right, all of the fruit is cut and ready to go, so we'll just set it aside and we'll start doing our cream cheese frosting. So we're gonna need 2 cups of powdered sugar for the frosting, so I'm just gonna go ahead and measure it out. It's 230 grams. We're gonna be close, see if we have enough. Perfect. Get this big boy set up. So our cream cheese and our butter is soft enough to make the frosting. So we're gonna use 8 ounces of softened Philadelphia cream cheese, not sponsored. Half a stick or 1/4 a cup of butter, also softened. And we're just gonna whip those 2 up. Just gonna scrape down the sides of the pan again and then mix it again until it's light and fluffy. It's so beautiful. I love it. So now we're gonna add about half the powdered sugar, so about 1 cup with the mixer on low, along with a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we'll turn it up a little bit and let it incorporate. Now we're going to add the additional powdered sugar and scrape down the sides of the bowl. Tablespoon of almond milk. You can use regular milk or heavy cream or whatever you'd like, but my stomach agrees better with almond. So we'll add that in and then just mix it like normal. All right, so that looks about done. Now it's time for the fun part. Time to frost. What I'm just gonna do, super fancy, I'm just gonna plop it on. No piping bags, nothing special. It makes a lot of frosting. You can use a spoon or whatever you want. I'm gonna use this little angled spatula. Spread it out in a nice even thick layer. You can go all the way out to the edges. You can leave a space at the end, whatever you want. Awesome. All right, now for the fun part, time to exercise your creative talents. I don't have very much, so this is about as far as I go. So I always start with strawberries on the outside. Makes it look like a little flower. And I'll try to use the bigger pieces for this one. And here's the final product. Every time it looks a little bit different. Depends on what's in season, what I'm in the mood for. And then slice it and serve it. Leftovers can be kept in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. And usually it's gone way before then. So enjoy, thanks for watching.